the conservative media has been all over in their effusive praise for Putin. I mean, it's not just the 45th president who's called him sly and brilliant, but people like Tucker Carlson are saying, what's going on? Ukraine isn't the one that took away your job. Ukraine isn't the one Putin isn't the one that's teaching your kids critical race theory in school. To me, this is really damaging. And I don't really see the benefit of it in terms of strategy, but maybe you know something that I don't. What gives?
Yeah, well, I disagree with things that Tucker Carlson has been saying. I think he is, in some ways, isolationism is nothing new. So I think you see people like him, you see J.D. Vance said things like, oh, I don't really care what happens in Ukraine. I'm more concerned about fentanyl coming up from our southern border and killing Americans. I think that is just naive. But I will say that those voices are in the minority among conservatives. The vast majority of conservatives have been speaking out in Congress. Most of the other Fox News hosts and analysts, they've been very strong on this. And I do think, though, that another reason why you have the isolationism, though, is because they are saying, okay, Ukraine is actually not an angel. Like I pulled up the Amnesty International reports, for example, and also Reporters Without Borders. It's a group for press freedom that I used to volunteer for 2 years. You look at those reports. Ukraine, they don't respect journalism, free enterprise, or free expression. They are slightly better than Russia, but I think that's another reason why they're trying to say, look, don't send American troops and American treasure and American lives and American blood to be spilled for a country that doesn't really share our values in that way. So I think that's part of what's going on. What do you think?
Well, I do think that Ukraine certainly has a ways to go. But when I look at these countries, Carrie, I think what's important is what direction are they going into? And when a country has been under authoritarian rule for many centuries, as Ukraine has, I think it's a gradual process. But they have really pro-Western sentiment. They're moving towards Europe. They're moving away from the dictatorship that Putin espouses. And that's, frankly, one of the things that makes him so nervous, is because he feels that he's losing Ukraine to the West. And I will agree that while Biden hasn't, as you say, waged war on the fossil fuel industry, I think certain things like canceling the Keystone Pipeline before the jobs were there, and a few other things, I think has not been a good course of action. Because let's face it, when you get right down to it, Russia is a gas station with nukes, right? I mean, Sweden has more exports if you take away energy. So, and people are going to buy oil and gas no matter what. So that's why, again, I think the key is crippling his financial system. But as far as Ukraine goes, I don't think anyone believes we should invest blood and treasure. I think that's one of the reasons why Putin would not attack the Baltic states, because then it's a NATO country. So he would hear back. We would have to respond. We would have no choice. And then you're on the verge of World War III.